Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk. It's me.
It's the expert.
Yeah.
Back again, haha. So, yeah, we've been digging into some interesting stuff. AI, all this kind of crazy stuff going on.
So much going on, yeah.
But, we're not going full Terminator on you today.
Not yet.
Not yet. Maybe next week.
Me.
Haha. But we are diving into something that I think a lot of people have seen making waves online.
Definitely seen some headlines.
Yeah, and it all has to do with the House of Mouse.
Oh, the mouse.
Yeah, Disney and, particularly this new live-action Snow White film that's been getting a lot of attention.
Oh, yeah. It's causing quite a stir.
Causing a stir?
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. The internet's been having a field day with it, right? Like coming up with all these nicknames.
Black Snow White. I've seen that one.
Yeah, that one's been floating around. And, we want to be clear that that's not accurate. Rachel Zegler, the actress, she's Latina.
Right.
And it's also, not really the nicest thing to call someone.
Pretty insensitive.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's not just the nicknames. It's just this wave of, anger and frustration that seems to be directed at the movie.
Yeah, it's like a lot of built-up tension or something.
And it's interesting, right, because it's not totally out of the blue. We saw something similar happen with the live-action Little Mermaid.
Definitely a pattern emerging there.
So the big question that we're trying to explore today is, has Disney's focus on what some people call political correctness or DEI?
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
All that good stuff, has it actually backfired? Is it creating the opposite effect of what they're maybe hoping for?
Yeah, is it leading to more division than unity? That's what we're going to dig into.
That's the deep dive today. All right, so let's jump right into the Snow White saga, this sparkly drama, as I like to call it.
Sparkly drama. I like that.
So casting Rachel Zegler as Snow White was definitely the first domino to fall, right?
Oh, yeah. That sparked a lot of debate right from the beginning.
But it feels like it was just the first of many dominoes.
Oh, yeah. The casting was just the tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So what else has been going on? Because there's a lot of talk about Rachel Zegler and her comments and her social media presence.
There is a lot of talk. One YouTube video we saw even said she's dropping atomic bombs on Disney's brand.
Atomic bombs? That's intense.
Right. Pretty strong imagery.
So what exactly did she say or do that caused this virtual explosion?
Well, there are a lot of reports swirling around. For example, she apparently said in an interview that she doesn't even like the character of Snow White.
Doesn't like Snow White. That's kind of a tough starting point for playing the character.
Right. Imagine your favorite band saying their old music is terrible.
Oof. Yeah, that would kill the vibe for sure.
It would. And there's more. She also said something about the original Snow White script belonging in a museum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of people took that as pretty disrespectful to the classic film.
So not only does she not like the character, she thinks the original story is outdated.
It's like she's actively pushing away fans of the original canon.
And that's not all. She reportedly mentioned that this new movie isn't really a love story and that they might even cut scenes with the male lead.
Wait, so Snow White without the prince?
That's what it sounds like.
That's like pizza without cheese.
Yeah, it's kind of a core part of the whole fairy tale thing, isn't it?
For a lot of people, yeah. It's a classic love story.
Right. So that's already causing some raised eyebrows. But then there were also reports about her publicly criticizing her co-star, Andrew Burnap, and framing it as a feminist stance.
Yeah, that didn't go over well. She was accused of trying to elevate herself by putting him down.
So not exactly creating a harmonious work environment.
Not exactly.
And then, of course, her political views also became part of the conversation.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other can of worms.
Right. There were reports about her using some strong language about a former president and his supporters.
Which obviously alienated a lot of people.
Yeah. And then there's the apparent difference between her views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and those of her co-star, Gal Gadot, who's Israeli.
Right. So even more controversy.
So it's not just about the movie itself. It's about her public image, her personal opinions. All this stuff is swirling around.
It's like a PR nightmare for Disney.
Yeah, for sure. And the controversy even reached the family of the original Snow White's producer.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. Jonah Platt, his son, was very vocal in his criticism of Rachel Zegler.
Interesting. So what did he have to say?
Well, he basically said that her, what he calls narcissism and her political views were hurting the film and potentially costing Disney a ton of money.
A ton of money? How much are we talking?
Hundreds of millions.
Wow, hundreds of millions. That's a huge investment.
Yeah, and his point was that with that much money on the line, the lead actress kind of has a responsibility to promote the film in a positive way.
Yeah, I can see his point there. It's a business at the end of the day.
Right, and he felt like her actions and her statements were overshadowing the movie itself and potentially hurting the livelihoods of everyone who worked on it.
Yeah, the hundreds of crew members who depend on the film's success.
So it's not just about creative differences, it's about real-world consequences.
He was really emphasizing the idea of accountability, especially when you're dealing with that much money.
Yeah, that definitely adds another layer to this whole situation.
And it gets even more complicated.
Yeah.
Because then, after the movie bombed at the box office, there were reports that Rachel Zegler posted some insensitive things on social media.
Oh no, what did she post?
Apparently she was celebrated being in the #1 movie in the world, even though it was a massive financial flop.
That's not a good look. It's like throwing a party after your business goes bankrupt.
Yeah, it seems tone-deaf considering the circumstances.
So all this drama surrounding the star, but let's talk about the movie itself. What were some of the reported issues with the actual film?
Well, one source described the script as like something an AI wrote a few years ago.
An AI a few years ago, that's not exactly a glowing review.
No, not at all. And the CGI was apparently comparable to Jurassic Park.
The original Jurassic Park.
Yes, from 32 years ago.
So not exactly cutting edge.
Not really what you'd expect from a modern Disney film.
Yeah, and some of the plot points were also pretty eyebrow-raising. Apparently, Snow White befriends a thief and decides that stealing is the government's fault.
Wait, what? That's a far cry from Whistling at Bluebirds.
Right. It's like a whole different Snow White.
And there's more. The Queen's assassin is apparently a black character who's easily distracted by an apple and basically portrayed as a diversity hire.
So the main black character is a villain who can be bribed with fruit.
That's how it's being perceived.
Yeah.
And it's being called the most unequal DEI film ever.
Wow, that's a pretty harsh label. So what makes it so unequal?
Well, apparently while the cast is diverse, a lot of the characters, including most of the reimagined Seven Dwarves, they're now bandits with only one actual dwarf barely have any lines.
So it's diverse on the surface, but not in terms of who actually gets to participate in this story.
Exactly. It's like checking a box, but not really embracing the spirit of inclusion.
And it seems like audiences sense this right away because the trailer got a ton of dislikes on YouTube.
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
It's like getting booed before you even start your presentation.
And then the critical reception wasn't much better. It only got a 44% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ouch, 44%, that's rough. But what about the audience score?
This is where it gets really interesting. It has an incredibly low rating on IMDb, like around 1.5 out of 10.
1.5, that's unbelievably low.
To put it in perspective, The Human Centipede 2 has a 3.8 on IMDb.
Oh, wow. So Snow White is even lower than a movie known for being super disturbing.
Yeah, it's on track to be one of the lowest rated films ever on IMDb.
That's pretty damning. So how did it do at the box office?
Well, it only grossed $43 million against a $250 million budget.
$43 million? That's a disaster.
Yeah, projections are saying that Disney could lose over $300 million on this film.
$300 million? That's just mind-boggling. How does that compare to other Disney live-action remakes?
With Lion King opened with $191 million and Beauty and the Beast with $174 million.
So Snow White is not even close.
Not even in the same ballpark.
So yeah, it seems like a major misstep for Disney. But is this just a one-off or is it part of a bigger trend?
Our sources suggest it might be part of the larger pattern. There have been several other recent Disney films that were seen as emphasizing political correctness that have underperformed or lost money.
Like which ones?
Well, the live action, The Little Mermaid, even though Halle Bailey got some praise for her performance overall, it didn't do as well as expected.
Right, and then there's Lightyear.
Yeah, Lightyear was a big disappointment, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny also didn't live up to the hype.
So it's not just Snow White. It seems like there's some audience fatigue with this approach.
That's what people are saying. The idea is that when DEI efforts feel forced or too political, it can alienate audiences.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to push an agenda instead of just telling a good story.
Right, and the controversy around Halle Bailey's casting as Ariel is a good example.
Yeah.
It definitely had its supporters. But there was also a lot of pushback from people who felt like it was an unnecessary change.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to strike, wanting to be more inclusive, but also respecting the original source material.
And appealing to a wide audience.
Exactly. And according to our sources, this woke backlash is having a real impact in Hollywood.
Yeah, studios are starting to get nervous.
So they're pulling back from content that's too woke?
It seems that way. There are reports of projects being canceled and studios going back to older, less diverse content.
Wow, so they're like hitting the panic button.
This is like a course correction. Maybe they went too far in one direction.
So what's driving this sudden change?
Well, money is a big factor. These films just haven't been making money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hollywood is a business after all.
One producer said that films with very specific themes like transgender issues might only appeal to a niche audience.
Right. They might not have the broad appeal needed for a blockbuster.
They mentioned the movie Emilia Perez as an example. It's about a Mexican drug lord who becomes a woman, and it's being seen as very in line with the Academy Awards DEI requirements.
So it's like they're trying to check boxes instead of telling compelling stories.
That's the criticism, and another point was that some Hollywood executives might have supported DEI initiatives to attract younger audiences.
Right, because young people are generally more progressive.
But those younger audiences haven't necessarily been showing up at the box office.
So the strategy might have backfired.
It seems that way. So what are some of the lessons learned from all of this?
Well, I think a big one is that diversity needs to be balanced with quality storytelling.
Right. It can't just be about ticking boxes.
Yeah.
Diverse characters need to feel like organic parts of the story.
And you have to know your audience. You can't alienate a large portion of your potential viewers with too much political messaging.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot where you're being inclusive, but also telling a story that resonates with everyone.
And at the end of the day, making a good movie has to be the priority. If the story isn't engaging, no amount of representation is going to save it.
Exactly. And it seems like open communication with the audience is also key.
Right? Acknowledge the concerns, be respectful, and maybe take a step back and reevaluate the approach.
I feel like Hollywood is at a crossroads, trying to figure out how to navigate this new landscape.
Yeah, it's a complex issue, for sure. So this whole Disney Waterloo, as some are calling it, it's a pretty fascinating case study.
It really is. It shows how these different factors, casting creative decisions, public image, and audience reception can all come together to create a perfect storm.
Yeah, and it raises some important questions about the future of representation in entertainment.
As always, we encourage you to form your own opinions based on the information we've discussed.
Absolutely. So here's a final thought to ponder. Is there a way to create movies that are both inclusive and commercially successful?
Can you tell a story that resonates with everyone while also representing a diverse range of characters and experiences?
What makes a story truly timeless and universal? Let us know what you think. And until next time, keep thinking.
Keep thinking.
And sipping.
And talking.
See ya!
Bye.